Parents, raise your hand if you've ever said just 10 more minutes of screen time, and then suddenly you are negotiating like a hostage situation. Same. Today we are going to be talking about screen time struggles, what the experts say is healthy, and how to stop it from turning into World War Wi-Fi. And spoiler alert, it's not just about fewer episodes, it's about more connection, balance, and trust. We have 3 expert takes today. First up is Dr. Jonathan Haidt. He says that it's about mindfulness over minutes. You may have heard about him through the book Anxious Generation. Then will come Lenore Skenazy. Now she's flipping the whole conversation on its head. And finally, we will finish with Dr. Sanam Hafeez, who is handing us the most doable tips for daily life. Let's see where you land in this debate. You've probably seen Dr. Jonathan Haidt popping up all over social media or heard him on major news outlets. His book, The Coddling of the American Mind, is everywhere, and he's been featured on the Today Show talking about how technology, especially social media, is affecting our kids. It's not just a trending topic, it's a major conversation happening right now. Let's take a quick look at his interview.
Really outlined that it's different for boys and for girls. Talk to us first about what you've seen with young women.
Yes. So with young women, we see much bigger increases in depression, anxiety, self-harm, called internalizing disorders. They turn it in on themselves.
Because that phone, that camera, they're looking at themselves, right?
Oh, that's right. That's right. So really the way to understand this, the difference, I think, is this. If you want to trap an animal, you have to find bait that that animal likes. And then you have to put it in something where the animal can't escape. So what are girls more interested in than boys? Relationships. Who's fighting with who? Who's dating who? They have a much more evolved mental map of social space. So social media says, hey, do you want to see what so-and-so just said about so-and-so, or what someone said about you? And the girls all, especially once Instagram comes out, 2012, the girls all flock onto Instagram and other visual platforms. So that's the lure. And now they're trapped because now that everyone's on it, you can't, if you leave, you're alone, you're isolated. So the girls get trapped by social media, and it does a number. It's the social comparison, it's the bullying, it's the perfectionism, it's the eating disorder content, it's the approaches from strange men. 15% of adolescent girls get approached by a sort of sexual approach each week.
Dr. Haidt just said we are seeing an increase in both anxiety and depression, and this is being linked to screen time usage, whether it is social media or gaming. And let's be honest, as a mother of 2 myself, I totally get it. I have 2 gamers of my own at home. So tell me, are your kids gravitating toward their screens the minute they're done with school? Or is it just my house that turns into a mini game tournament after dinner? Now, he argues that the screen time itself isn't just the danger, it's the comparison trap. Kids are constantly measuring themselves against highlight reels and chasing likes like gold stars. And if you remember middle school, now imagine it 24/7. He also emphasizes that younger teens are the most vulnerable population because their brains are still developing, and social media is literally engineered to keep them hooked. No wonder why we're all shouting, "Dinner's ready!" into the void. Now, what's the solution? Mindfulness, helping our kids notice how apps affect their emotions and teaching them to take a step back. And yes, that means modeling it too. Guilty as charged here. All right, now let's shift gears and move on to another expert who has a more controversial take on screen time. She basically said, what if we just let our kids live a little? Enter Lenore Skenazy. You might remember her as the mom who let her 9-year-old ride the New York City subway alone. The media called her America's worst mom. And she was like, cool, I'll put that on a t-shirt. Let's watch a quick clip where she explains her view on parenting and why she believes that today's kids are overly sheltered.
In May, I declared it, take our children to the park and leave them their day. And that was considered so insane that the media was jumping up and down saying it's a pedophile parade. They were crazed with fear. And all I was suggesting is that we let our kids of ages 7, 8 and up go and spend an hour, half an hour. They got me down to 10 minutes. 10 minutes at the park with each other, trying to come up with a game. Figure out Foursquare, play handball, do hopscotch without me telling you what to do, because that turns out to be a very important thing. Free-range kids end up having to entertain themselves, something that it is very hard for me to get my own kids to do. And when they do, I am so grateful when they've plied themselves away from the screen.
So here's Lenore's take. Kids are missing much more than screen time limits. They're missing real life freedom. She believes that kids need space to explore, get bored, make decisions, even fail without us hovering over like over-caffeinated drones. But here's the connection to screen time. Lenore argues that one reason kids are glued to screens is because we've made real life kind of off limits. No riding bikes alone anymore, no exploring, no unsupervised anything. So of course they're diving into their Roblox worlds because those are the only places that they're allowed to be independent. Now let's bring it home with a more widely accepted and practical perspective from Dr. Sanam Hafeez. She is a clinical psychologist who's often featured on CNN, NBC, and other major outlets. She believes that instead of treating screen time like the enemy, we should focus on creating balanced habits that kids can follow, and let's face it, that we can follow too. She talks about something that I think we are all guilty of, and maybe you've heard of lately, something called bed rotting. Check out this clip.
So how can we set an example for our kids without cutting ourselves off from the world?
You know, children watch us and they take most of their cues from us. So it's hard to say to a child, well, you know, you can't be on the screen when they're watching you on your screen. So one of the things that you can do is really try to discipline and set some examples. So for instance, no screens, no phones at dinner time or meal time. I think that's a big one. Or just saying, okay, for half an hour a day in the evening, let's say after you're done with school, after you're done with work, we're just going to have a screen-free time where you can literally put all your phones in a drawer and set them to do not disturb and just do something fun. Even if that means just, eating a snack together, even if it means playing a board game together, even if it means just sitting down and talking about your day.
Do you think that Dr. Hafeez is accurate? This emphasis on modeling and that our kids are watching us? If we as parents are constantly on our phones, how can we expect our kids to put down theirs? It's like telling them to eat their vegetables while we're scarfing down a cookie right in front of them. So it's about balance, not just for them, but for us too, because we're all in this together. So let's break this down. Dr. Haidt says mindfulness over minutes. So Lenore has a more unconventional approach on stop focusing on the screen time and start focusing on getting out there and letting your kids see real life so they don't have to live in a Roblox world. And we finished off with Dr. Sanam Hafeez, which really focuses on modeling. 3 experts, 3 lenses. What do you think? Which one stood out to you as one that you want to take forward in your parenting toolbox? Now, here on The Village, we are here twice a week. On Mondays, I pull up the top 3 news stories of the week. And then on Fridays, I pull the topic from one of those headlines to dive deeper into. That is where this video came from, about screen time. If you are interested in that type of content, I'd love to have you join us here on The Village, because parenting was never meant to do alone. I will see you next time. Bye.